episode number 3 of Think Like a Marketer, where we dive into the minds and find out what makes marketers and entrepreneurs and innovators think differently, and have them share some practical and executable advice today. And today's guest is Roberto Blake, a well-known expert in the subject matter of YouTube and creative thought, and he's graciously given us his time. Now, there's a lot of things that I could talk about this guy, but I think it's better if I just sit up to you and introduce you to my buddy, Mr. Roberto Blake. Roberto, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Good morning, Randall. How are you doing today, man?
Man, not bad for a Wednesday. If I did complain, nobody'd care anyway.
Again, over that hump day hump.
Yeah, exactly right. So the first question I want to talk about is your background, your experience in the field of creative entrepreneurship, and you're certified by YouTube. Am I right in that?
Well, I hold 3 YouTube certifications. YouTube has a program where if you consider yourself a subject matter expert or a marketer or someone of experience, where it's very valuable to consultants, not only for people to understand your credibility, but for you to understand whether or not where in the spectrum of your understanding of the platform matches the reality as dictated by YouTube. So much like Google certifications or any other technical certification, it's actually quite valuable to have the company kind of vet you to say, yes, you understand our system the way that we understand our system. So I hold 3 YouTube certifications, one in audience growth and development, because like everybody wants to grow their channel, get more views, get more subs, right? Yep. And more importantly to me, I scored almost a perfect score. I missed one question, which was an either or. I got almost a perfect score in content strategy, which is the foundation of anything you do in any platform is your content strategy. You have to have quality content. You have to understand market demand. You have to understand content serving your goals. Do you want attention? Do you want to leverage this for your book? Or do you want to make money and use the platform to do that? Do you want sponsors? What is your actual, do you want to use this as a jump off for your career into another field or to build a business, your personal brand, your public profile? You have to have a solid content strategy. And then finally, content ownership, understanding as a content creator more or less what your rights are and the complex nuances of when you do something and other parties are involved, or if you use copyright material, having some understanding of fair use, which plays into some of my background coming from a creative services industry background of being a designer and a photographer. You run into usage and rights management issues all the time in that arena. So that knowledge served me well in becoming certified in content ownership. So those are 3 of the certifications that I hold as what you might call a YouTube certified expert or a YouTube certified marketer.
So if I sum that up, you were the guy who sat in the front row in high school.
Yeah, for the most part. Yep. I was the guy that the teachers were almost afraid to like, call on because maybe I'm going to say something that they can't deal with. I don't know.
I think I was the same person, but I was in the back row, and the questions that I was going to ask was probably going to be a little bit more nefarious. So the creative entrepreneurship, can you give it a little bit more detail of what you mean by that? Because
if you were
different, entrepreneurship on its own means many different things to many different people.
Well, entrepreneurship is about, being a map maker, being someone who forges ahead, being a pioneer, being an explorer. And it's also very much grounded in individual responsibility. It's also for crazy people. Sane people, they don't go and make maps, they use maps. Sane people use maps. Sane people settle and live in the same town for 20 years. Adventurers and explorers and map makers are insane. They go places they may not come back from, and they forge ahead, and they lay the groundwork for everybody else to be sane. And so to me, that is a good metaphor for entrepreneurship. As for creative entrepreneurship, if you were a tech entrepreneur, that's very straightforward. Obviously, you do something in the tech sphere. Obviously, you're a technically minded person. Maybe you're building an app or you're building an appliance of some kind if you were a tech entrepreneur. A creative entrepreneur is somebody whose business is predicated on creative thought and creative executions in the world of creative services and creativity as a whole. And creative services has a broad range. And in reality, marketers are creatives. They may not be artists, and some are, but marketers are creatives because ultimately marketers are dealing in the aspect of creativity that has to do with creativity from a storytelling perspective, from a communication perspective. Tony Robbins, one of my mentors, has often said, the quality of your life is the quality of your communication. And I believe that also applies in the realm of business. Your ability to communicate intent, your ability to communicate what you're able to deliver to a consumer or to a client. The quality with which you do all of that is going to determine the success of your business. And communication is more than what you say. It's also what you convey and what you demonstrate through various forms of media, whether that's the written word, whether that's audio, whether that's visual in the form of videos or photos or graphic design. And so those are the areas in which I've always excelled my entire life. I grew up watching Scrooge McDuck. I was always about money in some way. And I remember I was drawing comic books by hand as a kid, 5, 6 years old. I was drawing comic books by hand as a kid and selling them for like a quarter or two to my classmates. I was hustling like that early on. I could draw before I could walk. I was developing my own film. My uncle taught me photography. One of my uncles taught me photography. Both Uncle Charlie and Uncle Gilbert taught me photography, and I was developing my own film in the darkroom basement. Like, they had all the chemicals, they had all the things. It's like I cringe thinking about the fact of, like, you know, how I could have like burnt the house down or blinded myself or something now. But no, I was disciplined, and I was dedicated to it, and I was doing, you know, things properly. I was taught well. My uncle Lamar, he taught me how to draw at a young age, inspired me, got me into things like comic books and anime. You know, my mother, she would do arts and crafts and sculpting, and I was doing crafts by hand as a child my entire life. So my whole life, I've been this art nerd. I've been like, right? I mean, it's why I was the kid getting beat up at the bus stop, is because I was into art. And when computers came along when I was 13, this is like in the late 90s, early 2000s, like literally over 20 years ago, I taught myself HTML code in a single summer, Randall. Like, taught myself code.
It's confirmed. You're
before
a nerd.
Google. Before Google. Like, there was no
nerd,
Google.
Roberto.
Yeah, there was no Google to look it up, right? there was no that. Like, we had Angel Fire, Lycos, and GeoCities. We had Excite forums. We had Yahoo chat rooms. Like, that's how old I am, right? So, like, I've been on the internet 2/3 of my life.
You know, so I want to ask you, what made you, you jumped on in YouTube, and what year was it? Like 13?
I got serious on YouTube in 13. Like, everybody's been on YouTube before that, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. So
it's not everybody's.
2013.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because you know, no views, no subscribers, no nothing. It's just I had a dead channel, and I was like, oh, I'll actually do something with this now. Instead of posting a video 4 times a year, I'll actually do something every week.
Well, for those of people who don't know, first off, it is extremely difficult to build an audience of subscribers that actually engage with your content, just in any form, from, you know, Jackass and their types of channels to PewDiePie and all these people, Karina Garcia's and the Slime Queens. But it's even harder to do it the way you did it. Did you purposely make it hard on yourself?
Yes, because I'm an insane person. I'm always an insane person.
Give us some idea. Kind of tell them a little bit about the difference between how you achieved, was it 312,000 subscribers?
Right.
It's like a small city.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, it's a small city. It's some countries. Like,
we don't even have people who are famous, Mario Lopez's, and we were talking about Cruz. What is Terry Crews? Where's he at today?
Terry Crews is at about 250,000 subscribers, and he hasn't uploaded in a year, and he's like literally legitimately famous. Mario Lopez is at like less than 70,000 subscribers, legitimately famous. I grew up watching him. AC Slater, holler at your boy. Hey,
but I will say, because one of my clients is married to his sister, he is legit and awesome, no doubt.
He is. I've seen the content. I've seen the channel. Yeah. It's good. It deserves more subscribers, but I think that a lot of people are like, I make good content, I deserve more subscribers and more views. And I'm like, yeah, maybe you probably do, but there might be things you're not learning or doing or executing on that are stopping you. Because nobody, like Randall, I'll be very real with you, nobody gets what they deserve. They get what they negotiate.
Oh man, I love that. You know what, this is a good jump off, because we're talking about even people who have had these huge audiences, access to these people, still struggle on YouTube. And I use the word lightly, struggle. I don't think they necessarily struggle, but they even need people like you and advice like you to help them build a channel, when it's not, hey, I have this huge audience in Hollywood. It should just translate over.
Well, I mean,
YouTube.
between you and I, success is an interesting thing, and people judge success very interestingly, because if they have like success is when you look at someone's success, you're saying they're successful because they have something you would want for yourself.
Right.
And often you make assumptions about that success in the way that it must mean that they know something that I don't, or they know something uncommon, and you're not accounting for timing.
Yep.
They might have timing in their favor. They might be extraordinarily talented. It doesn't always mean that they have secret knowledge. Sometimes they're just using common knowledge in an uncommon way.
That's true.
And there are people with over much bigger channels than me, 1 million subscribers, 2 million subscribers, 9 million subscriber channels, people who are friends of mine. I don't name drop, but I'll tell you that like we've sat down.
Come on, Roberto. This channel is about thinking like a marketer, and you don't have to. I know you're humble because I've known.
But it's also I don't put people's like things that are said in confidence out there, and like
right. I got
using this story to illustrate the point that when we get together, whether it's like us and like we might even be hanging out with some of our friends that are behind the scenes technicians, people who haven't even got a subscriber count. They are just actually technical people, or they're business people. And then we have a friend of ours that has like 1 million, 2 million, and we're all sitting together, like, you know, on the couch or at the bar or something. And we're sitting there, and between us, we come up with something that would make a difference or would make a change that people would assume that why would somebody with 5 million subscribers need like the advice or get a good idea from somebody with 10,000 subscribers or 100,000 subscribers or 300,000 subscribers? Because people, Randall, misjudge success all the time. And they think that being successful means you don't have problems, or they don't realize that successful people often are too close to their own material to see new opportunities, or they're too comfortable with their current routine, but they want a change or they want something different. I've talked to people who are trying to streamline their actual process because they have all this success, but what they don't have is they don't have an extra 4 hours a day for their kids and for their spouse.
Right.
Because that's their actual problem now, is that I'm successful, but now I'm a slave to my success. And what I want is I want my children to actually have me be present in their life, because what good is it to have all this success and not have that?
Right. You know, I was listening to Grant Cardone this morning. If you know him, he's like everywhere. He's a beast. I know you've been involved with him. One of the things that he said, and I agree, is there is no work-life balance, right? There is no such thing, because the idea of a balancing scale, right, is like this seesaw. Like 1 minute you're with your family, and the next minute you're you're doing your work. That's not balance. It always implies that you can do both.
It implies self-division.
So what I said is, because my daughter is with me, I bring her with me, and I get her involved in the process. And at the same time, she gets to learn and be with her dad. I mean, I'm a big proponent of there is no such thing as balance. If you do anything great in life, you're going to have to give up something to make that happen.
In some ways, I disagree. Like, I believe in integration.
Right.
And I believe in the physical principle of the law of conservation of matter and conservation of energy. Energy is not lost nor destroyed. It just changes from one form to another, or is transferred from one party to another.
Right.
And I also believe in the concept of abundance, which means that there is an unlimited amount, or at least to scale for us. We're not going to run out of it. Even if it is finite, we are not so amazing that we're going to literally use it all. You know what I mean? The universe has much more to offer than we're capable of consuming. So even if it was finite, you know, it wouldn't matter. Like Thanos was wrong. Hate to break it to you. If you've seen Infinity War, you get what I'm talking about. Thanos was wrong. Even if the universe is finite, it has so much abundance that we're not going to use it all up. We're just fine. So in that respect, I understand what you're talking about, maybe more related to opportunity cost. I believe in opportunity cost because time is finite. Right. So that I agree with. But I don't believe that success comes at the expense of your family. I think that happens if you don't have the knowledge to integrate it properly.
Right.
I feel that that's the breakdown for people.
I think that you have two things in your life. You have time and money. When you're broke, you have a lot of time. So you have to do everything, which means you're going to be out of balance.
You know, I asked Gary Vee about this.
Yeah, well, I think that I agree with him, because his other statement is when you have money, you can buy other people's time, which he does.
The thing that Gary Vee, when I asked him an episode, I was asking him less for myself and more for most of my community because I didn't know how to respond to them.
Right.
He had the perfect answer. And it did apply to me too. But when I asked him, well, what's the bigger barrier to success? Time, a lack of time, or a lack of capital? And he said, neither. It's a lack of optimism. A lack of time and a lack of capital, either or both, is just an excuse. And it sounded harsh to some people, but I'm like, no, he's 100% right to put that foot in your behind, because it's the truth is that even if you had, all right, you didn't have a lot of money, but you have this abundance of time, you won't use that time wisely if you don't believe that throwing time at this will amount to anything. Which is why people people, instead of hustling, because he's not saying, people take him out of context, he's not saying work yourself to death. He's saying, if you're going to play Call of Duty, work on your business or your personal brand instead, or learn a new skill so that you can get a raise or whatever, or search for connections so that you can apply to that better job. He's saying to take that 1 hour that you're blowing off steam because you're trying to have work-life balance and not work yourself to death, is that, you could get a better life that would be a nicer job and more money and maybe 2 hours less work a day if you put yourself in that position with the time that you have. Or you won't give up your weekend to do that. You won't give your weekend up to hustle and to make an extra $300 every weekend, another $1,200 every month, which is giving yourself a $10,000 a year raise. Your boss is never going to give you. Never.
Exactly.
So,
hey,
that's what he's saying.
You got a shout out here from Frankfurt, Germany, Andy Dunlap. Is that a name ring a bell to you?
Why? I'm not 100% sure, but Andy, I appreciate you. If I can't remember you right this minute, it might be because
you talk to thousands of people a week.
Well, not only that, it's also I'm in cerebral mode right now, and but Andy, I appreciate you.
Shout out. Yeah. And Tony says super informative, and yes, they use excuses. So that was her
thank you, Tony.
Which is true. So I want to move a little bit closer to what the topic was. If someone was to use YouTube and they're starting out on YouTube, which anyone who's on YouTube has any amount of subscribers started in that very same space.
Everyone starts at zero.
What would be your advice? First thing first, you would tell them that you would recommend if they were sitting there and you were going to advise them.
Well, first of all, I think that one of the big issues is everyone wants a voice, but very few people have anything to say. So that's a real thing that happens. And to answer part of your question, what made me take YouTube seriously in 2013 versus all the previous times was that I'd gotten to a point to where I had something to say and I knew what I wanted to say now. And what I wanted to do was, I came from that background of creative services, teaching myself, and I did go to college, but I didn't bother to get a 4-year degree, but I got real skills out of it. And I paid community college cash and zero debt. Not everyone will even have that opportunity. It's the thing when I'm a public speaker now that's the thing I get the most applause for when I tell that story at the beginning of my thing. It's people really don't, if they were thinking, I'm going to check this out for 5 minutes and then I'm going to leave. That's what keeps them in the seats is, oh, wait, I'll listen now. This guy, zero college student loan debt. Wait a minute.
How do you do that?
I paid cash. I suffered. I got bad grades. I didn't sleep at night. I worked doubles and I freelanced on the side. I hustled. I killed myself. There's an easier way to do it than what I did. But I didn't have a mentor. So now I know better. I know what I did well. I know what I did right. And I now could give myself I could give 20-year-old me, I could give 18-year-old me tremendous advice. And that's why I came to YouTube in 2013 was I had actual skills to teach in programs like Photoshop and Premiere Pro and all this tech stuff that could give you skills to earn money, whether you're in college right now and you need to earn money on the side and pay for college and maybe not have debt, or whether you want to build it as a business instead of going to work for corporate America like I did, go work for the man. If you want to be independent, whatever you want to do, there's so much opportunity now. There's so much abundance now with all these new technologies and platforms. There's so many entrepreneurs like me that hire freelancers. I think about it. I came up even as a teenager freelancing, hustling on the side. I hire people and give them that same opportunity now. That's
Right.
a big transformation to make in a lifetime. So I came to YouTube to pass on, as Yoda would say, pass on what you have learned, and most of all, failure. Like pass on my successes and my failures to people and teach them. And I had
So
no
you're saying just
expectation
have
of an
something
audience.
good to say first.
You like it ain't there's no
Valuable
point in
to say.
having a voice. Everybody wants a voice and they ain't got nothing to say. He ain't got jack to say. So
Yeah.
so if you want to go to YouTube, the first thing I would tell you to do, the first thing, if you want to start YouTube tomorrow, I would say think about what you want to say, what you have to say, and who you want to say it for. You don't have to want to be an educator like I did or teach people or empower them economically. You could be someone who, like me, suffered through depression. I could have just went the motivational route completely and just did positive affirmations and also talked about my journey with that and talk about like how I got past depression and anxiety and self-harm, or how I even still struggle with it in spite of success. I could have just went 100% motivational. I balanced it, education and motivation for creatives like me, because I wanted to, I didn't feel like there was anyone standing up for people like me when I was growing up, aside from a few friends and family. I want a platform to give people like me hope that someone like you, somebody that's that art nerd, someone's that tech nerd, someone's that person being bullied at school or in the workplace or literally by their teachers in the administration because they dare to think differently. You can be successful. You can either be successful and work a career, or you can be successful in your own right as an entrepreneur. Or if you just are having a hard time right now and you're struggling, you're broke, you could set aside all of your free time, sleep an hour less, and get a skill that will help you pay your bills. And I will give you that for free. I will give you that for free.
I like that. You're giving them that for free.
Yeah.
Where would they go somewhere to get that for free?
They would go to my YouTube channel. They go to youtube.com/RobertoBlake2. It's the number 2. And there's over 1,000 videos. There's over 1,000 videos.
Yep, they are. So, how about for people like me, around 50 years old, and they're like reinventing their second life, so to speak. Like they had their corporate America, they got tired of that crap. They wanted to do something different. They have a lot to say because they have experience in life, like real world experience in different things. And they decided, I want to jump in. My girlfriend's a perfect example. I gave her an iMac computer or a MacBook Pro a couple of months back. And that was the first time she'd ever used a computer or been on anywhere. And now she has a show, she's using it, and she's just a beast. And, and it's because of people like you, your channel. I like, hey, these are the people you watch, and just they're going to tell you what to do because they did it. So what would it be? So the same advice applies. Is I guess what you're saying is have something good to say. Number one,
whether you're 15 or 50. If you're 15 and you like have struggled with self-image and acne, I've seen people blow up and have channels with 50, 100,000, like based on that. Granted, they struggle after they no longer are going through anymore, sometimes to retain an audience, because that's what market demand is. But if you're 50, you can still make an impact on people, because there are people who are 15, 25, 30 who would love to have advice from somebody who's a decade older than them. I love Gary Vee because we think very similar. We had very similar things happen to us in our childhood, and he's someone who's 10 years older than me. And so when I see Gary, it's confirmation that I'm not a complete lunatic, or even if I am, it doesn't matter. I'll win. Like Gary, for me, a lot of times is not a revelation of, oh, I would have never thought of that. It's like, no, I've been thinking that, I've been screaming that, and no one listened. Great. Thank God this millionaire is saying it, because now people will actually take it seriously, because I came to the same conclusion as Gary, literally miles and miles away at a different point in my life for a different reason. I came to the same conclusion, but thank God, if no one's going to listen to me, at least they will listen to him and take it seriously. And it gives me the air cover to where I don't look like a complete lunatic. Right. So I like that. So Brian Tracy came to YouTube years ago, and I think he was like 55, 60 when he came. He was like a silver fox when he came to YouTube. Right. And Brian Tracy is one of the greatest businessmen and entrepreneurs of all time. Came with positivity, came with real common sense marketing and sales advice. His channel now is like over 500,000, but it's like, go back. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't getting views. There's a lot of stuff that still doesn't get the views, but he's changing lives. He's changing thousands of people's lives, and he's a great inspiration. And he's an older gentleman, like Stone Cold Silver Fox, successful dude. He beat cancer. It's like if you're 50,
you got a lot to say.
You've got a lot to say. If you're 50, you actually have a better chance of having something to say. When you're 15, you haven't lived a lot. You might not have something to say unless you've gone through something. And you can be 15 and you could have gone through something, or you can be 15 and you could have insights. I mean, freaking Caleb Maddox, right? Like, love that kid, freaking hustler. They're 15-year-olds inventing stuff. You can come to 15. You can be a 15-year-old kid, and you might even be an expert. You can come to YouTube at 15 if like you have a kid, like if you have a kid and they want to do YouTube. If you have a kid and they want to do YouTube, my advice to you is find out what they're super excited about right now and let them explore it, but be involved. Be involved. Like, I'm terrified because yes, there are scumbags on the internet, and there are people who will hate on them and bully them, and you also don't want personal family information to get out there. Just be involved and let them experiment and let them find their voice and let them do what they're excited about. If they don't know who they are yet, this could be a place for them to find out, because they could get support for it. They could get encouragement for it, no matter who they are. That's what I love about YouTube. Right. There's an audience, no matter how small or how big, there's an audience for everybody. Yep. There's an audience for everybody. If you're not accepted at home, you live in a small town, you live in a country where people like you aren't successful, you can go to the internet, you can go to the YouTube, Instagram, you can go to these platforms and find acceptance, find success, find a living that may not be viable where you are and everything like that. You could become a job creator in that place and you can be successful. And now all of a sudden, instead of being the misfit toy, being the outcast, you're the misfit toy that's now the leading entrepreneur in your neighborhood, in your community. And now you're literally their freaking savior. Like, that's possible.
Hey, the cool thing about live is that people can ask live questions from somebody like you that has either heard of you, which I'm noticing a lot of people have heard of you.
Oh, that's awesome. That's super flattering.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And then there's people who've never heard of you who are now getting to experience you. And I think that's super cool. So I have a question here from Joe Orsak. It says, because of how I can add friends, I have managed to build a decent audience on Facebook live streams. But what is your biggest tip to building an audience on YouTube? And I've not been as successful on YouTube at building that audience.
So I would say that you have to think about a couple of things. And I think you have to choose your audience wisely. I chose my audience wisely. I knew that it was going to be slower and harder to grow. And I also knew there's an artificial ceiling for me because aside from the motivational things that might inspire young people, 5% of my audience is young. That's it. 5%. After that, it's mostly like people like you, Randall. It's like I have like successful older people in my audience. Most of it is people 24 to 44 is like 70% of my audience, and it only gets older. Like it's and that's real because those people are in a position to apply a lot of what I'm talking about. Sometimes young people might not have the resources or the skills yet to deploy some of what I'm talking about. Some of them will be inspired to when I talk about the social media stuff. They can do it depending on how technically inclined they are or what they have access to. If they have access to a decent phone, those things matter. So what I would say to Joe is I would say that choose your audience wisely. The audience you've grown in Facebook may or may not be the audience that you need to choose for YouTube. And what you're doing in Facebook, you might have to decide whether or not you think that translates to an audience, because if you're growing in Facebook, the odds are that what you're doing might be something business or technical in nature. You would have to do how-to content in YouTube, and it will be slow. That's what I did. You might have to do trainings and do tutorials, and that's slow. But you'll notice that most of the marketers and most of the people that have been on the show that are marketers, they don't have a huge YouTube audience. Right. I'm one of the few. There are very few business people. There are very few of us in the business YouTube community. It's a small circle. But here's the beauty of it. If you're a real estate person, 5,000 YouTube subscribers is more valuable to you as a real estate person than 50,000, 500,000 if you were a slime queen. It's a much more affluent market of people that are following you, and you could translate that into something meaningful. And that's enough for you to have the credibility and leverage in your arena, because with the exception of Grant Cardone, there aren't exactly a lot of big real estate people in the YouTube ecosystem.
Right. Well, knowing a little about Joe, so he has a show that he does live. It's where they kind of a debate where he believes that America has lost the ability to disagree civilly, right? In this particular show. So he creates that environment, takes questions from the audience, and he brings one or two people that say, build the wall, and the other side says, no, don't build the wall, right? And
I would recommend that he do something completely different in YouTube. But for very practical reasons, I would say that he should do video essays objective video essays, middle of the road video essays, where he basically does almost an infographic show compiling the data around concepts and ideas. So like, you know what, if he actually did a data-based video essay on the private prison system, just with the purpose of educating people so that they can have civil debates. Because if you're saying people aren't having civil debates, if that's your cause, if that's the hill that you want to make a stand on, if that's where you want to plant your flag, are you contributing beyond putting people in a room where they can either talk civilly or yell at each other? Are they doing it as educated people? Because that's like one of my biggest pain points is I don't think that in particular in the world, but in particular in America, I'll say this, it's somewhat controversial. I think that, and my own experience in life is that people aren't educated enough and people feel that their opinions are equal and valid. And I'm like, no, your opinion might not be equal to mine. Your opinion about YouTube, for example, may not be equal to mine. I have experience far beyond yours, or I have a lot of data to back up what I say. Because I'm a consultant, I've literally looked at hundreds of channels of data. Even if you're a successful YouTuber, I can debate with you and our opinions may not be equal because you might be living in the bubble of your channel or your niche, whereas I have the broad spectrum analysis and I have the data and the case studies. Right. So that means the depth of my understanding of this beyond the bubble of your situation is very different. And it's not even just academic. It's the fact that I've literally interviewed over 100 people on this platform about their experiences. So I also have their perspective and I have the empathy of their relationship because I've made friends with all of these people and heard them out on a regular basis. So
right. I think that's interesting. Yeah.
And I'm using this as an example because it's my easy go-to. But I would say that for Joe, I would say if you built a YouTube channel that is search friendly to educate people to have civil discussions, you're contributing to your cause in a different way. And it's a different, more powerful thing. It's also less likely to be demonetized. It's easier to get some backing for something like that. And it makes you more than a host. And gotcha. So I would say that it expands your brand. I think business-wise, you look for ways to diversify rather than repurpose.
I got you. That totally makes sense. And sometimes it's the obvious that we all miss in life.
Yeah. And again, I just believe more people could be educated. I would like to be more educated about certain things, but do I have an objective, nonpartisan source of information? It becomes harder and harder to come by every day. And people want that. While it might feel like the majority of people want to live in a bubble and want to live in an echo chamber and just want confirmation bias, there's a whole swath of this country and a whole swath of this world that is in the middle, and they like being in the middle. They like being able to make up their own mind. They don't want to be in one camp or the other, but they also want information that they can trust, and that's lacking. Be that person, fill that need.
Right. So I'll pop it on the screen. It's a lot of writing, but in essence, Tony says that this interview has changed her.
Oh, wow.
Which knowing your personality is the reason that you do this stuff, the reason that you could be doing a lot of other things instead of being with Randall and working, because I know you work with a lot of large brands. You work with people that if we mention their name, pretty much everyone on here would know. So I appreciate that. And I think that that's in essence what sums up who you are, that one comment was worth you doing this.
Absolutely. Like I want transformation in people, and they can do it themselves. They can do it themselves. They might need help. They might need guidance. They might need somebody to trigger a desire for it in them. But I mean, nobody was coming to save me, Randall. No one was coming to save me. So I did it myself. So
cool. So I got a couple things we're going to close with. Your go-to app on your phone. You Android or Apple, or
Both.
You don't care? Both. I knew you were going to say that.
I own 4 phones. I own 2 Apple phones, and they all have SIM cards. Well, I have more phones than that, but I have 4 phones with SIM cards, 2 Apple and 2 Android.
So if you had an app that you use outside of YouTube, because that's probably the one you use you're on the most, right? Mm-hmm. Is your YouTube app? What's a good app that you would recommend?
I mean, aside from Twitter, because that's the one I'm on all the time, besides Twitter and Instagram, because I'll tell you, Randall, like Twitter's my secret weapon for building relationships and building business relationships, brand stuff, interviews, in general, people I want to reach. So like Twitter is a big deal. YouTube is the best platform for building your personal brand, but then as an extension of YouTube, with the foundation of that being content, you need to be accessible, and the comment section isn't good enough. So you need to be on Twitter for that. And then ancillary to that, I say Instagram makes you a better YouTuber and also makes you accessible. And it's a different platform that you can leverage for your personal brand. And then as a result of that, you can get whatever you want marketing wise and as a business. So like the Trinity for me would be that. Now, if you're an adult, Facebook is still valuable to you, but I feel like Facebook is more of a social network than a content platform. YouTube is a content platform. Twitter is a networking platform beyond Facebook, I think, because of how real time and snappy it is. And Facebook is very distracting because it's a portal to everything else. Right, so I like Twitter for that. Twitter is also a great distribution center for content, whereas Facebook likes native content that keeps people on platform, whereas Twitter can take people wherever you want them to be. So distribution, Twitter, networking, Twitter, DMs, Twitter, access to you as an influencer or a personality or as a coach or as a business person, Twitter. Instagram is where I think you have the ability to pull back the veil and reveal much of yourself. So I think that's YouTube. You can put your polished whatever out there, even if it is authentic. It might need to be more polished just because of production values and things of that. Eliminate distractions, get attention, but you have the permission to be raw in Instagram and to be very real there. No filter. In a way, not politically. I mean, like no filter in the sense of like, show what you look like first thing in the morning. It's okay. People want to start the day with you. If they're in for you, they're in for you like that. You know what I mean? Right. Especially if you're a female businesswoman, female entrepreneur, there's like a no filter, like kind of thing going around there. And it's like very refreshing and encouraging. And it's very empowering for people, right? Creators I know, people in business, entrepreneurs I know. Here's another pivot. People are talking finally about their anxiety and their depression and their struggles with their success. And I love it because it restores humanity to entrepreneurship. It restores humanity to social media. And that's what I would like to see more of. I'd like people to value their vulnerability in that way, Right. So I think that core platforms like that. Now, if you want a super, super practical tip, automation wise, the Buffer app, free version, or you do the $10 version. They don't have an affiliate program, or I would literally be making six figures with them right now for how many people I get onto this thing. The Buffer app, that's like a big deal. So, I recommend that. An app that there is a mobile app, but use the desktop app and then just get the mobile afterward. I'm going to here's one, and I can give your audience a discount code for that. And this one is kind of affiliate thing. Do I have your permission on that?
Oh yeah, for sure.
One of the best tools for YouTube you can use right now, TubeBuddy. If you go to tubebuddy.com/awesome and you use discount code Roberto's Buddy, they'll hook you up with 20% off forever. And it's the tool that I use for growth hacking in YouTube, for productivity. I can bulk edit the descriptions of all my videos, Randall. So if I need to change a link, to my website or something I'm promoting, I can change it across all 1,000 videos just like that. If I need to know, hey, what's the best time of day to upload based on my data, not some arbitrary, what's the best day of the week to upload? Nope, it's based on what my audience does. It'll give me my data. So it puts all of those things into context. It helps me rank my videos easier so that they're on the first page of a search. This helped me growth hack and get a 30% bump on my content a couple of years ago. And I've been advocating for it ever since. Most creators don't even know about it. Wow. A few of the business and marketing people, when I tell people what it can do and they actually see it, blows their mind. I was hanging out with a friend.
What is it again? Really quick.
TubeBuddy, like YouTube and then buddy, like buddy film, TubeBuddy.com/awesome. And then the discount code is Roberto's Buddy. No apostrophes, no nothing, just Roberto's Buddy. Get some 20% off. And it's funny, I was showing a YouTuber with 3 million subs this tool, and she freaked out over it because she did she immediately was like, wow, I didn't even know. She did a quick button click. She's like, I didn't even know that video was demonetized. And she was able to do bulk check for demonetization, click a button and automate the manual appeal process on 3 videos all at once instead of doing it one by one. There's so many of these productivity tools built into TubeBuddy. And that's why if I'm going to recommend an app, I want to recommend always a free app and a paid app. So I recommend Buffer for automating your social media post for distribution in LinkedIn, Twitter, or even Instagram. And I recommend TubeBuddy for optimizing your YouTube channel and helping you with growth hacking and for productivity. So those are like the biggie tools that I would recommend from companies that I respect.
What about so that's your app. So what about like software that you would recommend?
There's not a lot to it.
There's so many of those like Canvas and
I'm an Adobe guy. Like,
yeah, I knew you were going to say that too.
I'm an Adobe guy, and if you don't like the subscription model, it's like there are other options. But I pay so much for email marketing that like I'll never cry about the $60 that I pay Adobe every month for that. I'm like, I wish I could pay $60 for my email marketing. Like I wish I could pay $60 for like, you know, my budget for ads. Like I'd love to just reduce bills to $60. So I don't complain.
Right. Well, Jeff says, "Hey, great content." Jeff is a regular visitor, so
thank you, Jeff.
Well, I want to wrap it up because I know I asked you for 45 minutes of your time, and we're coming up on that. But before we leave, you have something special for the guest here of the show.
Oh, that's
you'd like to share.
Oh yeah, no, that's right. I almost forgot. So one of the things that I did that is probably one of the smartest things I did was beyond YouTube. I've always diversified my income. And a lot of people don't realize that like I've been doing consulting and coaching, but I also consolidated in 2017 and built an online education and coaching platform for coaching, courses, and also a membership group for mentoring. And one of the things I want to do is I want to give your audience a discount, either on personal one-on-one coaching with me, a YouTube channel review if they want that, or also a discount on 2 of my products. So if you go to awesomecreatoracademy.com,
it's there. And we have it there on the screen now. They could actually click on it now, and
you use the discount code THINK on those products, you'll get a 30% discount. So I'm not doing a discount on the monthly membership, but I am doing discounts on the one-on-one coaching, the YouTube channel reviews, the YouTube starter kit. YouTube starter kits for people who are not Photoshop wizards and need thumbnails and branding for their YouTube channel. There's over 160 downloadable assets, plus some training, plus some more resources there. So it really is a steal for $99, but you guys are getting 30% off of that price if you use the code THINK, and that's for a limited time. We also have the formula for awesome videos. When I started making videos, Randall, if you watch my earliest content, I sucked, right?
Like I do now.
Well, you know, it's hard. Sometimes you don't know how to develop your on-camera charisma. Sometimes you don't know how to maintain your energy on camera for long periods of time. Sometimes you don't know how to write a script. Sometimes you don't know what the camera settings are. Sometimes you don't know what camera gear you're supposed to buy. And then even if you knew all of that, you might not have a system for maintaining the quality of your content or a process for making different types of videos, and you end up winging it every time. Why would you wing everything instead of just having a standard operating procedure, right? So I built something called the Formula for Awesome Videos. And I'm also writing a book about this thesis of like how you make a good video. But I have this course called the Formula for Awesome Videos that covers those main problems and breaks it down into a system that anybody can use to shortcut making quality content instead of bumbling through their first 100 videos, sucking out loud like me. Even Gary, like, kind of was not great his first 50 videos. He talks about how like how he was trying to be something he wasn't for like the first 30 videos, and it took him like 50 videos to really get it. And to
he
like
actually wore a suit in those beginning ones I seen.
Yeah, like he's not a suit guy, and he's not a suit guy. Right? Like because he was so in his head about it, right? I give people some of the methods of like literally what I did to transition to being very comfortable on camera and to tap into my charisma, but then also the technical aspects of like how I learned how to make my audio not suck, how I like learned how to like, oh, I wish I had done this differently so that this video looked better because it was good information, and you know, all these things. So I wanted to give people the discount. They can use code THINK. That's for a limited time. So grab it now, get 30% off.
Yeah, and I put it there in the description so people will be able to get it if they just totally forget to think. I tell you what, though, it is easier to be an interviewee for me. Like that's a no-brainer. You could just give me one word and I could go.
Right on.
Being an interviewer, I see why they pay Oprah and those people a lot of money because it is hard.
It's rough. You know,
you got to be quiet.
And you have to be thoughtful about
Yeah,
what you ask people and what's going to be useful to the audience, but also what's going to get them animated and excited. No one likes to have a stiff interview, right? So,
yeah, exactly. So, in close, I want you to tell them all the places they could find you, Twitter, Instagram, so they could really digest. Because I know you put different things in different places. The content that you're sharing on YouTube is more of like how to achieve and do these things. And Twitter, maybe you're having more of a conversation there. Instagram, you're peeling it back.
Yep, exactly. So like that, you basically summed it up. So they can find me at Roberto Blake pretty much in every platform. On YouTube, you can either type in my name or you can go to youtube.com/Roberto Blake 2, which is the number 2. They also can check out my podcast in iTunes. It's the Create Something Awesome Today podcast. If you're not on iTunes, it's also in Stitcher and SoundCloud. So definitely check it out there. We've got an interview coming up with Pat Flynn for that podcast. It was on his podcast as well. I think the latest interview that's out over there is Chris Ducker. Yep. We have some great interviews coming out pretty soon. Hank Green, one of the founders of VidCon, one of the Vlog Brothers, he's agreed to come on. A couple other people have agreed to come on. People like Jared Polin, very successful, world famous photographer and YouTuber, better known as Frono's Photo. Boogie 2988 has agreed to come on. A lot of just wonderful people, have decided that they're going to come on to the show and give a little nugget of their knowledge and experience to the community. And I really appreciate that. That's why I got into podcasting, is partly one, a different long form way passively throughout someone's day to like be in their ear, giving them education and motivation, but also to invite people within my network to do the same in a way that maybe I can't do for somebody in the audience.
Yeah. Well, hey, Roberto, I can't say thank you enough. And I do owe you. And you've got a couple of, what's your next speaking engagement that you have? You mentioned it. You had like 5 or 6, but there's one that's coming up.
I'll be at VidCon June 21st, which is also my birthday. So I'll be speaking. That's tremendous. I'm also doing a meetup. TubeBuddy is actually doing my meetup on the creator floor for that talk. It's my first year speaking at VidCon. It's like my 3rd or 4th year attending. And I have 3 sessions my first year speaking at VidCon. That's really awesome. Then after that, I've got Social Media Day San Diego, where I'm going to be speaking about YouTube and putting into practical applications for business. I'm going to be speaking at Vid Summit. I'm going to be speaking at Video Marketing World, Jeremy Vest event. I'm probably going to be speaking again at CVX Live this year. So I'm speaking every month for the rest of the year. As an attendee, I'm going to be on panels probably at Atlantic Comic Con and Dragon Con this year. When I get back from Video Marketing World, come back for Labor Day, immediately go to Dragon Con with my friends. But I'm also going to be on probably the new media panel again. I was on there last year. So all year, like it never stops.
Good. Well, hey, man, I'm going to let you get back to creating something awesome today. And we all thank you. Yeah, I love it. And again, man, we'll touch base and see how we can work together on some other projects. And I want to let you jump off here. You have
Absolutely.
a good one, Roberto.
Thanks so much, Randall. You guys take care.
Bye. Well, hey, that was Roberto Blake there sharing his amazing content with us. Hey, if you get a chance, I want you to go to check out our YouTube channel. I've provided all the links in here above. Also, catch me on Facebook Live if you're watching it now. It's on. Check out our Facebook page at Think Like a Marketer Show, and on Instagram, the Think Like a Marketer Show. I'm Randall Chesnutt, and I'm out.